So very good morning everyone. Today we will be discussing mainly about airway mechanics, airway resistance and work of breathing. Okay, we will keep it as simple as possible and this should be useful for your day-to-day scenario, especially nowadays we are treating mainly with the respiratory diseases. So please concentrate, watch this video in loops. Okay, we discussed till now how chest wall expands, intrathoracic pressure drops, expanding the lungs, intraalveolar pressure drops, and air enters the lungs. Till now we are discussing air is entering the lung, but when air is entering the lung, it is entering from atmosphere into the lungs via airways. Okay, from nose to larynx, that is the upper respiratory tract, and from trachea below downwards, that is lower respiratory tract. Air has to travel through these airways. So for air has to travel, we discussed first thing how our brain controls respiration is by sending inspiratory signals to your inspiratory muscles, diaphragm and your chest wall muscles, expanding the chest wall and diaphragm, thereby decreasing the intrathoracic pressure, also known as intrapleural pressure. So intrapleural pressure, which falls from, see, the relative pressure is zero, that is your atmospheric pressure, which is outside 760 millimeters of mercury. So the intrapleural pressure, which is already 2 millimeters less than this atmospheric pressure, that is somewhere around 758, we know the reasons. It drops up to 6 millimeters less than the atmospheric pressure. So out of this so much drop in intrapleural pressure, follow the pointer. Most of the drop pressure is used to cause positive transpulmonary pressure. So most of the pressure, this entire drop, okay, from -2 to -6, most of the pressure is used to make this transpulmonary pressure positive and used in expanding the lungs. By expanding the lungs, what we did is decrease in the alveolar pressure. Okay, decrease in the alveolar pressure. Now, we will keep this in another ways. So most of the drop in intrathoracic pressure is used to expand the lungs, and some amount of it, by expanding the lungs, some amount of the pressure is used to drop the alveolar pressure. So now air has to travel from the atmosphere into the alveoli. So if air has to travel from the atmosphere into the alveoli, the simple concept, law of diffusion, is movement of gases from high pressure to low pressure area. So air has to travel from high pressure area to low pressure area. That means air has to travel from outside to inside. Means the pressure near the nose and mouth should be more than the pressure near alveolus. How this is possible? We don't have any pump near nose or mouth. So instead of increasing the pressure here, so two things drives air from outside to inside. Either you increase the pressure here or else you decrease the pressure here. If you decrease the pressure here, this will be high pressure area and air moves from high pressure to low pressure area. So the main driving force for the air from the atmosphere into the alveolus of lungs is derived from the difference between the pressure near nose and mouth and difference between the alveolar pressure. So during inspiration, what happens? This alveolar pressure drops. So this will be less than the pressure near nose and mouth. The pressure near nose and mouth is always equal to the atmospheric pressure. So nose and mouth are having pressure at the atmosphere. So the pressure near the nose and mouth, airway opening, we call it as PTO at the airway opening, or else pressure at the mouth. Both are almost similar. This is equal to atmospheric pressure. So the driving pressure for the air in airways is the difference between these two pressure. So if the alveolar pressure is less than the atmospheric pressure, air goes from atmosphere into the alveoli. So the driving pressure is the difference between the atmospheric pressure and alveolar pressure. So we know at functional residual capacity after quiet expiration, alveolar pressure is zero. That means it is equal to the atmospheric pressure. So there is no movement of air into the alveoli. Only during inspiration, when intrapleural pressure drops, the pressure in the alveoli drops just 1 mm less than the atmospheric pressure. This immense pressure will drive air from the atmosphere into the alveoli. According to your law of gas diffusion, diffusion occurs from high pressure to low pressure areas. Air moves from high pressure to low pressure areas. Now, when air is going through this airways should be open, right? Airways should be open. So nose, pharynx, all these are always open. Your muscles of the pharynx keep your airways open. Nose and nasal cavity is open. You can open your mouth. So these are always patent. Trachea is in the neck. So this is also always open. And as you move downwards, these airways should be open. So the pressure that keeps this airways open, like we can call it as transmural pressure across airways. Similarly, your transmural pressure across alveoli, nothing but your transpulmonary pressure. So for a sphere, when the transmural pressure across the sphere is positive, it is a distending pressure. This we already discussed. Similarly, for airways to be patent, to be kept open, the distending pressure or transmural pressure across the airway should always be positive. If it is negative, what happens? Airways will collapse. If transmural pressure across the airway is negative, airway will collapse. So the transmural pressure across the airway is nothing but the pressure inside airway, PAW, minus pressure outside the airways. So below primary bronchi onwards, what is the pressure outside the airways? It is nothing but your intrathoracic pressure, nothing but your intrapleural pressure. So we already know in almost all physiological conditions, the intrapleural pressure is negative. Intrathoracic pressure is negative. So negative of negative will become what? It becomes positive. Negative of negative become positive. So almost all conditions, the intrapleural pressure, because it is negative, the transmural pressure across the airways is always positive. Except in forced expiration, there also what happens we will see. So this trans airway pressure, the pressure inside the airway minus intrapleural pressure. The pressure inside the airway towards the nose and mouth is mostly equal to the barometric pressure. That means relatively it is zero. So we are talking about relative pressures. Actual pressure will be 760 mm. So as the airway goes towards alveolus, the pressure inside the airways will be almost equal to the alveolar pressure. So what we are talking is the distending pressures. So in between the alveoli and PB, it will be in between these pressures. So at FRC, PA is equal to PB, PAW is equal to PA or PB. Okay, that means entire pressures, relative pressures is at zero at FRC. So intrapleural pressure at FRC is minus 2 millimeters of mercury. So 0 minus of minus 2 millimeter plus 2 millimeter. So even at FRC, the airways are patent because of the distending pressure, distending transmural pressures. So what happens during inspiration? Intrapleural pressure falls way below. It will become more negative. So negative that the airway pressure will become more positive. Same like your transpulmonary pressure. Airway pressure also will become more positive. Same like your transpulmonary pressure. Same. It is PAW minus PI. PI will become more negative. That means the trans airway pressure will become more positive like your transpulmonary pressure. Similarly, airways will be distended during inspiration. Not only that, during airways, especially the smaller airways among the alveoli, especially the smaller airways like terminal bronchioles, respiratory bronchioles, among the alveoli, they're tethered to the alveoli. So during inspiration, the alveoli size increases. The alveoli size increases. Why the alveoli size increases? It is because of, again, increasing the chest wall diameters, making intrapleural pressure drops, increasing the transpulmonary pressure, distending the lungs. Here we are not talking about entry of air. Here we are not talking about entry of air. Alveoli are expanded mechanically from outside. So when the airways is tethered to this alveoli, when the alveoli are expanding, they also pull the airways open. So two things. One is negative intrapleural pressure and pulling force of alveoli will open the airways. Okay, keep the airways open and also expand these airways during inspirations. So this is how your airways are open. So what is the driving pressure, driving force for the air entry from outside to alveolus is the difference between atmospheric pressure and alveolar pressure. The distending pressure is the difference between the pressure inside airways and pressure inside the thorax, intrapleural pressure. This is almost similar to the atmospheric pressure near nose and mouth and towards alveoli, and in between in the middle of the respiratory tract. Almost it varies between 0 to 1 mm. Okay, 0 to 1 mm. At FRC, PB is equal to PA, that is equal to 0. That is relatively, it is 0. So as long as your PA is negative, till now you can understand, by now you can understand that as long as your intrapleural pressure is negative, your transpulmonary pressure is positive, distending alveoli, your trans airway pressure is positive, distending your airways. This is what keeping them open, making them distended. Driving force is pressure difference between outside to inside. This is simple diffusion, law of diffusion. So now we know air is not simply directly going to the lungs. It has to travel through nose, nasal cavities, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles. In bronchioles, last terminal bronchiole, up till terminal bronchiole, it is conducting zone, and from there respiratory bronchioles, alveolar ducts into the alveoli. Now, we know there are three types of flows, whether it is liquid going to your tubes, through your tubes, or else air going through your tubes. Laminar airflow, turbulent airflow. In between is your transitional airflow. Laminar airflow, transitional airflow, and turbulent airflow. Where do you see the laminar airflow in respiratory tracts? In the smallest airways, terminal bronchioles, respiratory bronchioles, alveolar ducts, you have laminar airflow. What is this laminar airflow? Same like your blood flow. Your blood also flows in laminar airflow in the blood vessels. That means when you take the direction of the flow of all particles at the particular cross section, they will be towards same direction. The air flows in layers. Air flows in layers. So the central layers having less friction will have more velocity compared to the layers towards the periphery. So streamline flow or laminar air flow. This is very quiet flow, and all the particles will have same direction of flow. So this you see in lower airways. Laminar airflow follows Poiseuille's law. So what is that Poiseuille's law? We will see. So V dot, whenever you see this symbol V dot in your respirator system, this is nothing but the flow rate. Okay, V dot is flow rate, that is liters per second, or it's liters per unit time. That is equal to 1 by resistance and into delta P. Delta P is the driving force that we already discussed. What is this driving force? PB minus PA is the driving force going through the air, going through the lung. So because these tubes, our airway tracts, they have epithelium, they have epithelium. So they have epithelium and they are not smooth tubes. Even though they are smooth tubes, some resistance will be there, right? Resistance. When you are talking about air and fluids, we talk about the resistance offered by the walls, mainly the resistance offered by the walls along the flow, and also resistance offered to the flow. It is nothing but the friction, like frictions applied to your tires, car tires. When you are walking, there is friction against your foot. Similarly, there is resistance to the flow when the flow is occurring through tubes. So, where do you see the flow is directly proportional to the pressure difference, inversely proportional to the resistance. That means the more the pressure gradient at the beginning, at the end, more will be the flow of air. That is already we know. More the pressure difference, more will be the flow. More the resistance, less will be the flow. So turbulent flow. What is this turbulent flow? Especially in the major airways. Here you can see all particles are having same direction of flow. In turbulent flow, they will be haphazard. They will be haphazard. So here the flow is directly proportional to square root of delta P. It is directly proportional to the square root of delta P. No, in between is the transitional flow. In between is the transitional flow that has properties between laminar flow and turbulent flow. Transitional flow, sometimes it will be laminar, sometimes it will be turbulent. So most of your airways, okay, larger airways like trachea, bronchi will have turbulent flow. Smallest airways like respiratory, terminal and respiratory bronchioles will have laminar flow. In between the airways will have transitional flow. At a particular point, the airflow will be like streamline. At particular point, there will be turbulent. So you can see these eddy currents where there will be circular motion of the air molecules. So what happens in transitional flow and turbulent flow is resistance is maximum here. Resistance is maximum here. Whereas in laminar flow, resistance is minimum. The overall resistance is minimum and the resistance is more towards the end of the tubes, mainly towards the last diameter sheets. So the central molecules will flow with high rates. So here the resistance will be more. And from this diagram, you can also say that a particular delta P causes flow rate. In turbulent flow, here flow is directly proportional to square root of the delta P. That means higher difference in pressure is required to cause more flows, right? Higher difference in pressure is required to increase the flow rate. So from P1 to P2, the pressure changes. If you want to increase the flow, you should increase the pressure more than what is required in the laminar flow, right? The pressure change is required to increase the flow when there is turbulent flow, especially in the major airways, should be more than the pressure required here to increase the flow. Here it is directly proportional, but here it is proportional to square root. So delta P should be more. So if you want to double the flow here, increase the pressure change by 2. But here, if you want to double the flow, you want to increase the pressure change by 4 times. Then only it will increase 2 times. So this, okay, in this diagram you can see clearly laminar flow. All the particles at a single cross section will have same direction. So this you see in terminal respiratory alveolar ducts. Turbulent airflow, especially trachea and bronchi, you can see the eddy currents. You can see the eddy currents. Transitional flow in between. This is in trachea, bronchi, and this is the airway in between this smaller and larger airways. At the branchings, you can see the generation of eddy currents. Same eddy currents you will see at your opening of the aorta, especially the flow in between the aortic valves and the aortic wall. At the opening of the aorta, you will have these eddy currents responsible for one particular type of heart sounds that you are supposed to find out. It is given in your textbooks also. Okay, go through that. Similarly, turbulent flow. So we know that blood pressure, remember blood pressure. When the blood is flowing in streamline flow, there is no sound. But you increase the pressure at your brachial artery in your recording BP. What you are doing is you are occluding the artery and you are slowly releasing the blood. So then immediately the flow will be turbulent. This turbulence is responsible for your Korotokov sounds. So when there is turbulence of fluid or else turbulence of air, there is sound. When there is laminar airflow, there is no sound. So this in respiratory system, why this is important is when you keep your stethoscope on, trachea, there will be more turbulence in trachea. So you will have harsher sounds on trachea compared to the sounds you will record on your chest wall, where the flow will be laminar, until unless the lower lungs flow is also turbulent in some pathological conditions. You will not hear harsher sounds on your chest surface. Only on trachea you will have harsher sounds. So this is very, very important there, that we will discuss during clinical examination of respiratory system. Now, if you see, we discussed about airway mechanics, the driving pressure, the distending pressure, and most importantly, these pressures in the flow volume formula, volume flow rate is equal to delta P divided by resistance. That stand true for your laminar airflow, mainly for your laminar airflow. So the most important factor that affects your airflow in the airways is the airway resistance. Airway resistance, the resistance offered to the airflow in your tracheobronchial tree. This airway resistance in turn depends on so many things: type of the flow, whether it is turbulent or laminar airflow. Laminar airflow has least resistance, turbulent airflow has highest resistance, because the flow is haphazard. Flow is haphazard. Rate of gas flow. Okay, the rate at which gas is flowing. More the velocity of the gas, more will be the resistance. More the velocity of the gas turns streamline airflow into turbulent airflow, thereby increases resistance. So both things goes hand in hand. As increase in velocity increases turbulent flow, increase in turbulent flow increases the resistance. Diameter of the airways. This in turn depends on the tone of the bronchial smooth muscles in the airways and lung volume. Density of the gas, viscosity of the gas, and dynamic airway compression. Here you can see, as the lung volume increases, airway resistance decreases. Why this happens? If you remember the mechanical tethering, as the lung volume increases, the alveoli will pull the airway wall open. As the lung volume increases, the alveoli pull the airway open. Because of the mechanical tethering, the airways diameter increases and airway resistance decreases. So as the lung volume increases, airway resistance decreases and conductance increases. Now we will see how that happens. So for laminar airflow, especially the airflow in your smaller airways, it will be laminar airflow. So the flow rate V dot is directly proportional to the change in pressure and directly proportional to the radius, inversely proportional to viscosity, inversely proportional to the length flow. We remember the formula, resistance is equal to delta P by flow. How to calculate the resistance of airways is measure the pressure difference divided by the flow will give you resistance. Same like your Ohm's law. Your Ohm's law gives what? V is equal to IR, voltage is equal to current into resistance when something is flowing through a wire or tube. So V is equal to IR, R is equal to V divided by I. Similarly, resistance is equal to, here V is nothing but the pressure difference across the tube. I, the current is nothing but the flow across the tube. This is nothing but the Ohm's law. So the resistance formula is, if you substitute, it is 8 eta L by pi R power 4. So this stands for mainly laminar airflow. Okay. Eta is nothing but the viscosity towards viscosity of the gas and to the friction towards the gas. L is length of the tube. So the longer the tube, more will be the resistance. R power 4. So it is inversely proportional to the radius. That too, it is power 4. So that means if radius halves, how much will become resistance? It increases by 2 power 4 times, that is 16 times. If radius is half, the resistance increases by 16 times. So the more the radius, less will be the resistance. More the length of the tube, less will be the resistance. See, initially they would have calculated taking individual tubes from your corpse, especially from dissect. They dissect, they take out the airways, they measured the delta P, they measured the flow and they measure the resistance. That is one way, or else like this also you can measure the airway resistance. So that is for laminar airflow. What about turbulent airflow? Here the delta P is equal to resistance into V square, resistance into V square. V is nothing but your flow square. That's why in the diagram we saw flow is equal to, is directly proportional to square root of P. So when there is a turbulent flow, if you want to increase the flow rate, you have to increase the driving pressure so much. They have to increase the driving pressure so much. Almost, if you want to increase the flow by 2 times, you have to increase the pressure by 4 times. So the turbulent flow is having high resistance compared to streamline flow. There the pressure required to double the flow is same. You double the pressure difference, double will be the flow. If you hear turbulent flow, you have to increase the pressure by 4 times to increase the flow rate, because the resistance is high during turbulent airflow, where you will see this normally in trachea and bronchi. Another important concept is Reynolds number. Just remember, this is an arbitrary number with a formula. It is equal to velocity into density into, you know, diameter divided by the viscosity. What is the significance of this Reynolds number? You can see the Reynolds number, if for same gas the density will be same, for same tube diameter will be same, for same gas viscosity will be same. When these things are constant, the Reynolds number mainly depends on the velocity. It depends on the velocity. So the velocity of the gas is more, that means turbulent flow. Reynolds number will be more than 3000. So then the flow will be turbulent. When the flow is turbulent, resistance is maximum. If the Reynolds number is less than 2000, then the flow will be streamline. If Reynolds number is less than 2000, flow will be streamline. The Reynolds number between 2000 and 3000, the flow will be transitional. Flow will be transitional. So a trachea bronchi, flow will be turbulent. Terminal bronchioles onwards, flow will be laminar. In between, most of the bronchiality, flow is transitional. Okay. So turbulent flow has more resistance. So here you can see, as the airway generation number increases, the number of airways increase. Why? Because of Weibull model. What happens? Trachea divides into two bronchi. Two bronchi will become four secondary bronchi, like that. So finally, the terminal respiratory bronchi numbers will be very more. So the generation increases, the number of airways increase because of the branching. This we already know. What is the significance of this branching? So you can see, when you keep the airway generation, you plot airway generation on x-axis and resistance on the y-axis. You can see the formula of resistance here. It is centimeters of water per liter per second, per liter per second. So this is nothing but the centimeter. What is the pressure? Delta P divided by flow rate, divided by flow rate. So if you see the medium size bronchi, especially segmental and lobar bronchi, are having the highest airway resistance. We call it as chief site of airway resistance. And after that, as the airway generation number increases, the number of branches increases exponentially, airway resistance decreases. So if you see the terminal bronchioles, airway resistance is less. We can say that because the streamline flow, airway resistance is less. That is one point, but there is another concept. Why it is more here? Why it is less here? Simple. Why it is more in the segmental and lobar bronchi is because resistance is directly proportional to L by R power 4. This L by R power 4 is highest for the 7th generation bronchi, that is segmental or lobar bronchi. And at the same time, at that same spot, there is transition of epithelium. The long columnar cells are becoming shorter columnar and cuboidal cells. At that generation number, the size of the columnar cells changes with changes in the length by R power 4. Length by R power 4 is highest for that segmental bronchi. Now, that is for this point, that is why it is highest. But why it is lowest for terminal bronchiole? According to our formula, the resistance is inversely proportional to 1 by r power 4. That means as radius increases, sorry, radius decreases, the resistance increase. Okay, so but here as you go airway generation number, radius decreases, but according to our formula, resistance has to increase. But instead of increasing the resistance decreased, especially in the terminal bronchioles. You can see the resistance is less, but according to our formula, it should be more. Why like this? Here comes your same current, Ohm's law, where when you connect the small tubes in a series connection, let's say the respiratory tract is not branching and it is directly going till the alveoli without any branches, it will be in series connection. So what happens to resistance? The length increases, radius being the same for a similar radius, let's say similar radius. And resistance, because the radius is decreasing, as you go towards the smaller branches, resistance should be more if they're connected in series. But what happens? They are like parallel connection. In parallel connection, what happens? Length remains same and the cross section area increases. This increases the overall radius. So according to our formula, resistance is inversely proportional to the radius. If radius increases, what happens to resistance? Resistance decreases for parallel connection. Same thing you will also see in your capillaries, blood capillaries. Why blood capillaries are having lower resistance compared to your artery and arterioles is because they are parallelly arranged, increasing the overall cross section. If you take individual capillary or else individual small airway like individual respiratory bronchiole, then the resistance for that individual bronchiole is more. But as they are arranged parallelly, like multiple branches are present, you will take the overall cross section area, overall radius increases, same like your Ohm's law, resistance will be less. That's why as the airway generation number increases, even though individual airway radius decreases, but the overall cross section area increases because of the parallel collection. Overall radius increases, decreasing the resistance. So because of this, the resistance is normally lowest near the alveolar ducts and respiratory bronchioles. So apart from that, the most important thing that govern your airway resistance is the tone of bronchial smooth muscles. Trachea and bronchi till 10th generation, they has cartilage. Okay, but from bronchioles onwards, there is only smooth muscles in the tube. So if this bronchial smooth muscle contract, what happens? The resistance increases. Why? Radius decreases. If radius decreases, resistance increases. If this bronchial smooth muscle relax, increasing the diameter of the smaller airways, that is bronchodilation, what happens to the resistance? Resistance decreases. If resistance decreases, less driving pressures are required to increase the flow rate. So normally, parasympathetic stimulation via vagus nerve causes release of acetylcholine. Acetylcholine acts on M3 receptor, muscarinic 3 receptor on your bronchial smooth muscle, causing the contraction, causing bronchoconstriction, increasing the resistance. Similarly, cold air, irritants, and inflammation, all these things fall in the alveolar PCO2. Okay, fall in the alveolar, the PCO2 levels in the alveoli, if they decrease, that also, all these things, the efferent limb will be your vagus. Efferent limb will be your vagus. Substance P, histamine, they directly act on the bronchial smooth muscle. All these things constrict the bronchial smooth muscles, leading to increase in the resistance. What about sympathetic nervous system? Sympathetic nervous system, by releasing norepinephrine, acts on the beta 2 adrenergic receptor. Beta 2 adrenergic receptor. But the beta 2 receptor sensitivity towards norepinephrine is less compared to the epinephrine released from your adrenal gland. So that's why when there is fight or flight, when your sympathetic system is activated fully, adrenal medulla release catecholamines like epinephrine, norepinephrine. This epinephrine will go via bloodstream, act on the beta 2 receptors on your bronchial smooth muscle, causing the relaxation of the smooth muscle, causing the bronchodilation. When bronchodilation occurs, the radius of the tubes increases, resistance decreases, flow rate increases, which is required when you are escaping, when there is fight or flight response. So density of the gas, this we already know. The more the mass, more the density, more will be the friction. So that's why your normal air contains nitrogen and oxygen in a ratio of 71% and 21%, like 75, 21%. Like most of the gas will be nitrogen in your atmospheric air. So this, compared to nitrogen, helium has lowest density, lowest resistance. That way, when you are going underwater in your oxygen cylinders, when you are going underwater, you want to diverse, especially they want to reduce the density of the gas, thereby reducing the resistance. So the pressures required to inhale the gases will be less, as the resistance is less for the helium. So density of gas. So last thing, what governs your airway resistance is the dynamic compression of your airways. This is very, very important. Okay. So before inspiration, that is FRC. Okay, we'll see in this slide. During normal inspiration, see the tracheal pressures inside the airway, pressure inside the alveoli, intrathoracic pressure. So at the end of normal inspiration, intrapleural pressure will become minus 7.5, alveolar pressure is 0 and 0, 0, 0. So the airways are open. So we are bothered about airway pressure minus intrapleural pressure here, which is the distending pressure. So inside is 0 minus of minus 7.5. So trans airway pressure is plus 7.5, keeping the airways open. So during expiration, okay, first we will talk about forced inspiration. Okay, during normal inspiration, intrapleural pressure ventil minus 7.5. So the trans airway pressure is plus 7.5, distending pressure. Similarly, during forced inspiration, intrapleural pressure ventil minus 30. So trans airway pressure is plus 30. So high distending pressure. Here also airways are fully open. Now, during expiration, the intrapleural pressure came back to 0, and alveolar pressure increased to 7.5. We already know that during expiration, alveolar pressure will be positive and intrapleural pressure can be 0 or else slightly it may turn positive. So as you go towards the atmospheric side, towards the nose and mouth, slowly the airway pressure decreases. But anywhere if you take, here the trans airway pressure is 6 minus 0, 4 minus 0, 2 minus 0, 1 minus 0, finally in the atmospheric air. So here also the trans airway pressure is positive. What happens during forced expiration? Forced expiration increases the intrapleural pressure positive, severe positive value plus 20. But with becoming plus 20, the alveolar pressure in during forced expiration also, because of the compression of the chest wall, acting of the intercostal muscles, abdominal muscles, the alveolar pressure also increases to plus 50. So one thing is, in everywhere the alveolar pressure is always positive compared to the intrapleural pressure. So the transpulmonary pressure is always positive, which is a distending pressure. As you go towards the atmospheric side, slowly the airway pressure decreases because it will be near the atmospheric value at the mouth. So 40. Here also trans airway pressure is positive. 30, trans airway pressure is positive. 20, it is 0. Okay. Still it is 0. It is not a collapsing pressure. But nearer the neck, when it is reaching the neck, because the intrapleural pressure is 20 and the airway pressure decreases, there is a chance of collapsing of the airway here, chance of collapsing of the airway here, but it does not occur in the bronchi and trachea. Why? Simple thing. What is this? Cartilage. The C-shaped cartilage in a string will always keep your trachea and bronchi patent. So even in forced expiration, when towards the main, so lower airways are at positive distending pressures only. So they don't have any problem. They are open only. But towards the larger airways, as you go from alveolar towards the atmosphere, even though there is a negative distending pressure, transmural pressure across airway, they will not collapse because of this cartilage. But there is a chance of collapse of bronchi bronchioles, especially during forced expiration nearer to the lower airways at the end of expiration, because they are having smooth muscle, but still they will never collapse completely. They will never collapse completely until unless there is a pathology where there is already constriction of those bronchi. Then there will be pathological collapse of this airways. This is how our airways are always kept opened because of this various distending pressure and also with the help of these cartilages. So that is for the airway mechanics and the airway resistance. So the most importantly, the driving force PB minus PA should drive the air from atmosphere to alveolus against the resistance. So the resistance is the change in the pressure divided by the flow rate. The resistance is change in pressure divided by the flow rate. So for turbulent flow, resistance is maximum. For laminar flow, resistance is minimum. As the radius increases, resistance decreases. But because as the radius decreases, resistance increases. But because the lower respiratory tract airways, internal bronchioles, alveolar duct, they are parallelly arranged, the overall air radius is more, the resistance is less. So all these are the dynamic components of airflow. So in the next class, we will discuss about the work of breathing. Okay, go through your textbook, watch the video in loops, give breaks and watch. Thank you.